New Thought Media Network proudly presents a weekly exploration of various spiritual practices with renowned spiritual authors, coaches, teachers, and Dr. Tracy Brown, RScP.
And now, here's Tracy.
Hey everybody, Tracy Brown here, and I think you know you are here with Poetry, Prayer, and Practice. I am so excited about the conversation that is on tap for today because I get to have a conversation and you get to eavesdrop on my conversation with Georgena Grace. Before we get to that, if you have not ever watched Poetry Prayer Practice before, I do want to give you just a little snapshot of what the show is about. We dive into how poetry either can be a spiritual practice or how it is a gift that inspires you or connects you to your spirituality. Prayer, we really dive into what is prayer, how does it work, and how can I feel like I'm pumping up my prayer or using prayer in the most effective way. So we've done some shows in the past about the details of prayer, different types and forms of prayer. We've done a show around, or one or two shows around how to identify prayer partners or to make your relationship with a prayer partner work more effectively. And then third, spiritual practice. And instead of focusing on the primary ones that people think about really easily, like, oh, I'm doing my spiritual practice. I get up every morning and I meditate for 15 minutes. We look at those, but we also get to talk about how we make our spiritual practice really relevant to what we're doing and how we integrate spiritual practice into our everyday lives. That's one of the things that has gotten me excited and helped me manifest a life I love. And so I love sharing that approach with you. So on Tuesdays at noon Mountain Time, here I am. And I hope that you will go and look at the archives and see past shows that are meaningful for you, as well as to mark your calendar for the rest of this year so that you don't miss a show. So let's get to today because, oh my goodness, I'm pretty excited. If you have been watching for a while, you know that I often just share 3 random things about my guest when I have a guest. And then I invite them to share more about their background, the things that they really want you to know about them. So 3 random things about Georgena Grace. Easy things. Number 1, Georgena Grace lives in Oregon. And that's not the only place she has lived, but that is where she is living now. Number 2, Georgena Grace is a licensed practitioner with Science of Mind and CSL. And so that means she's got some real skills and some real understanding about spiritual principle and how to use it. And number 3, people compliment me on my smile regularly. But when I hear, you have such a pretty smile, my voice in my head goes, but it's not as bright and beautiful as Georgena's. So Get ready, poetry, prayer, and practice users. I'm going to bring Georgena Grace forward. And if you don't already know her, you will see exactly what I'm talking about as it relates to the most beautiful, bright, welcoming, and loving smile in the universe. There, see, and I know you get that a lot. So I don't want to be the one who pretends it's not noticeable. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. It is such a delight to be invited to be your guest today.
Yeah, it's, what's funny is someone asked me a few weeks ago, someone asked me, how did you get all these people to say yes? And I'm like, I just invited a whole lot of people. And the whole idea was, let's just have a conversation. Like, well, you don't have to go prepare. It's not a workshop webinar. It's just a conversation about something you already are doing that relates to poetry, prayer, or spiritual practices. And everybody I invited, I knew they could do that. So it's like, that's how I ask people to do something that they already, to come and share what they're already doing, what they're already passionate about. And I know that we'll get into some of that in just a couple of minutes. But I only told people 3 pretty random high level things about you. What do you want them to know about who you are and what's important to you?
I want our audience to know that when I was 4 years old, I was called to be a practitioner. I was sitting in church and a download came and I realized I was born loving God. Now, I was only 4, and that was pretty profound, and it made me feel really good, but I didn't realize that this life journey was to learn to love and appreciate myself as God embodied. So that's number 1.
So that's number 1. What else is important for people to know about you?
I am so grateful for this practice. And because what I came into this world with was a mean mind. Many people are in the school of chronic pain and illnesses as a way to learn. But I came into this world with the critical mind. So science of mind has been such a gift for me.
And we're both big fans of science of mind because it works we put it to work in our own lives, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're watching like Fiona, please feel free to let us know that you are watching live and where you are based as you're watching. Fiona is from Geneva, Switzerland. And of course, you've got me here in Texas and Georgena in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon. And I can see that you're watching. I actually see numbers. So tell us who you are and where you're watching from. And don't forget that throughout today's show, you can make comments or ask questions at any time. And when possible, I'll bring some of them into the conversation. And so please feel free to join Lenora and join Laurie. Good. We've got North Carolina. We've got Los Angeles. So yes. And then there's are some other folks who are just not putting in their names. You know, one of the things, Georgena, I love about the New Thought Media Network is that there's programming, you know, all throughout from, you know, 8 a.m. Mountain or 7 a.m. Mountain, actually, through 10 p.m. Mountain. And so it allows the network to reach all time zones all over the globe with programming. And then also it's all recorded so you can watch it. And then the second thing that I love is that we really are building community. So some of the folks watching are on the shows as well. So I encourage everybody who's watching to, of course, watch this show, but also check out what else is available to you on the network. So we're going to talk about the 5 R's of spiritual alignment. The 5 R's of spiritual alignment. I don't know what they are. So I'm really curious to learn about and to engage in some conversation about what you have labeled the 5 R's. So how do you want to start? Do you want to tell us what they are one by one? Do you want to tell us all of them and then go back? Or do you want to tell us how you developed the 5 R's?
Well, actually, it is the 4 R's. And so, or at least I submitted it so long ago, the 5th has left my mind. Who knows? So
I bet by the time we go through 4, we will have a 5th one.
No doubt. No doubt. It's true. Well, it's very, very interesting, Tracy, because in my life, there are wonderful pieces of information that come in all the time. I love this life. There is so much to see and hear and taste and smell and just touch in this life. And so sometimes I'm extremely distracted. And I was intending that I could hear a way to bring together the body, mind, spirit, and emotions. And was delighted one day when someone that wanted to have a conversation and I went to coffee. And we were in this beautiful Portland coffee shop and the sun was out, which is rare in the winter. And she said, well, you know, what is it you do? And I said, I teach people to rest their body, relax their mind, regulate their emotions, and realign and return to spirit over and over again. So I think we have number 5 already, which is realign as spirit and return to oneness. How does that sound?
Well, go back through the 4. Rest your body.
Yes. Relax your mind. Regulate your emotions. So that means you have to be able to recognize them, relate to them, and choose to respond instead of react. Or when you react, that's information too. And then finally realign. Know that we are naturally spiritual beings, that we don't have to work at this. It's already there. We just realign with that oneness. And then return to wholeness, because how many times have you, Tracy, felt fragmented? I know I have.
Never.
Oh, okay. That's why you're a spiritual practitioner that everybody seeks. Is that right? Did I get it?
Okay, we're just being silly now, right?
We are indeed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So how many times? Like every day? How about every day at some
Yes.
point? I am
Mhm.
out of alignment, or like what I say is, I am just being a crazy woman right now.
Ah. Mhm. I've felt that. I've been that. Mhm. Mhm. Oh, about 5 o'clock this morning, maybe.
Yeah, I'm just being a crazy woman right now, or I'm just doing crazy human things right now.
Mhm.
So when I am so it does start with I recognize that, right? So when I recognize that I am out of spiritual alignment, I am out of alignment with the spiritual truth of my divinity and who I am.
Mhm.
So what do I do? What do I do? How do I apply these 5 R's?
Well, there's another tool that I
Okay.
call SSE, which is Simple System Embodied, and it's 3 questions.
Ooh.
And the first question is, how am I in this moment? What state am I in this moment? That's the actual question. And by that, I mean, what state am I in physically? What state am I in mentally, emotionally, spiritually? And the answer to that is the one that's most foreground. So, for instance, if you awaken in the morning, and that's a perfect time to do this practice, what state am I in? You might have had a nightmare, and as a result, you're in an emotional state of anxiety. Or you might wake up in the morning feeling aches and pains. So, what state am I in physically? What state am I in cognitively? If you wake up and that list starts going, oh, that's probably the one for you to focus on in the moment. And then finally, what state am I in spiritually? Do I feel disconnected?
Mm.
So the first thing is to notice, what state am I in and which of those 4 come up, which is foreground for you. Then the next question you can ask is, what would I like to have happen? Is it best for me to rest my body if I am in that state physically of feeling, waking up and feeling exhausted, or stopping during the day? I don't know about you, Tracy, but sometimes I ride my body like a horse and I just keep going and going and going mentally. And I don't even realize how tired I am and how wonderful it would be to sit down and rest for 60 seconds and give myself a 1-minute energizer that way, you know? So for us, we are the ones that will first and foremost tune in to discern which of those 4 is calling for our attention right now. Make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And we're all so busy now, right? It just in general. And so to be able to ask some very specific questions that are easy to remember,
Yes.
and then choose, like, oh, where is it? Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it spiritual? Is it right? Is it emotional? Where is it that I just kind of need to, or want to, not need to, but want to regulate or reassess or move in some way, change in some way?
And then the second question, so after a person discerns which of those four is foreground, then rest your body. Let's stick with that one for a minute. And so then tuning in to that well-being within, the wisdom that every one of us has, and sometimes forgets we have, we get to ask the question, what would I like to have happen now? So maybe rest for you is truly sitting down in a chair, or rest for you may be going and having the luxury of stretching out on your bed for 20 minutes. Or rest for you may be going outside and getting fresh air and moving your body to let that frenzy that may be in there simply dissipate. So we have that wisdom within to guide us to the next right answer.
Or rest for Tracy might be what doesn't really look like rest, but might be, Tracy, just stop what you're doing and go roller skating.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like just stop. And unfortunately, or fortunately, as I'm thinking about rest your body, relax your mind, go roller skating, regulate your emotions, go roller skating. It's like, oh, no wonder I love it so much, because whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, if I go roller skating, it puts everything back in place. Most of the time. There are some times when I realize, no, that's not the answer, but often that's the answer. So I love that you said for everybody, it could be different.
Yes.
You have to know, it's important for you to know what it is, or to experiment.
Yes.
To experiment, to learn what is it for you that then would give you that sense of resting your body or
Yes.
relaxing your mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's really wonderful, because when we practice this and make it a practice. So what would it be like for 30 days to explore all of the ways rest your body shows up for you?
Yeah.
And then the next, and the next. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Laurie, you're making me laugh hilariously. Roller skating is the 6th R.
Ah, yay!
And Elvia says, I love the 5 R's, with the return to wholeness being the prime objective. Isn't that like, oh, we do these things, but the 5th step or the 5th option is really the thing, right? And allowing us to increase our awareness of life and flow between the various elements of who we are physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Yes, Reverend Z, Reverend Elvia, that captures it so well.
And what I love about this is 5 is the 5-pointed star. So now we have a 5-star process if we really want to go there.
Yes, that is so fabulous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, so rest your body. What about relax your mind? So I've asked myself, well, what state am I in? What's in the foreground? Is it physical, mental, emotional, spiritual? I know I'm off, but so now I've reflected on that, and I realize that I'm really worried about something. I'm worried about, am I going to meet the deadline? Am I going to be able to pay the bills? Am I going to ever have a relationship? But I'm worrying. It's like all this mental activity that has got me worked up. So I realized that. And then what would I like to have happen? Let's say I would like to have happen that I am able to focus on what's important today and release all this anxiety and these worrisome thoughts. I need to relax my mind. I don't know how to do that.
There are, again, an array of practices that people can choose. My favorite is to come into the present moment with my breath. And the first thing to do is exhale the worry. And you can do an exhale that's loud and long. And immediately that takes that worry out of your body, and, or much of it, it at least gets you into that awareness. And then the next thing that can happen is that when you breathe in through your nose, the air comes in with ease and flow. And then you may exhale through your nose. So I call this the cleansing breath, Tracy. And so we exhale, and then the air can come in from a place of greater pressure to lesser pressure into our lungs without effort. And by breathing in to the nose, that automatically takes us out of our head, the mind, and into our body as far as the nose on our face. And so by breathing in to the count of 3 and exhaling to the count of 6, we're in an optimal state of breathing, about 5.5 to 6 breaths a minute. And simply by doing that, that's going to, for many, many, many people, put us in a state of relaxation, or at least awareness. Oh, I'm intending in this moment to relax my mind. So that's the first one for me always. That's my go-to.
I had to wait till I finished the full 6 counts before I could say anything. And I love that you gave like a specific pattern, like just fully exhale, let it all go, and then breathe in through the nose, breathe out through the nose, 3, 6. Because I find I often not just say to myself, but even to others, I'll notice that they're either, really breathing shallow, or they're holding themselves really tight, and
Mm-hmm.
and I will say, okay, breathe. And I assume that people know how to breathe. But while you were talking, I was following the instruction. I'm like, oh yeah, if I'm caught up in my head and I need to relax my mind, I may have so many things going on that it's helpful to go, oh no, this is what you're going to do right now. And so I found it really helpful. I mean, I'm not feeling stressed in the moment, but I felt my whole system physiologically go into a more relaxed mental place.
I'm happy to hear that, because awareness is the first key to change. That's what this overall practice does. And what state am I in? That brings us to the state of awareness, and change can happen only in the present moment. And those are 2 principles from Alana Rubenfeld, who is a pioneer in the body-mind movement. And so what I know is that you just now, what I heard is, stayed in the present moment by following the directions, and then as a result experienced that being present to yourself. And the effect was this relaxation.
Yeah, so I love it that even though I wasn't feeling stressed,
Mm-hmm.
that I could literally feel a deeper relaxation. I mean, to use the word relax the mind, I could feel it. I wasn't thinking about it. I could actually feel it.
Mhm. And what this does is this brings us into awareness and connection with ourselves. Because remember how I said I so often would ride my body like a horse, just think, 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 and my body would have to come along. Well, now this gives my mind an opportunity to rest and my body to be the leader
Mhm.
when we breathe.
Yeah. So I'm guessing there's some similarity if we want to regulate our emotions. And we asked that first SSE question, what state am I in? And then
Yes.
I realize emotionally I'm really worked up with
Hmm.
super, super high joy, excitement, or super, super low grief, sorrow.
Hmm.
And I decide what I would like to have happen is that I would like to feel calm, or I would like to feel peaceful. What are some
Hmm.
suggestions of how I might do that?
I love how you're giving our audience both questions. What state am I in? What would I like to have happen? Because when we recognize, all right, I'm in the state of joy and I'm like this, and maybe I just want to calm a little bit, there's an opportunity for us to ask a third question. And the third question is joy. What are you here to tell me? Just like one can ask, sorrow, what are you here to tell me? Because our emotions are energy in motion and they bring us messages.
I'm over here taking notes. Okay.
Great. Good.
I don't know that I'm just thinking right now. Do I ask emotions, what are they here to tell me, to teach me, to guide me? I guess I sort of do intuitively, because for me, I think in my head that sounds something like, um, what what is this about for me?
Yes.
Not externally, not like,
Right.
why did this person make me angry and what's wrong with them? But wow, I'm really angry about what just happened in that meeting. And I will ask myself, not what lesson am I to learn, but what what is it about that
Yes.
I need to understand, or that I could use, or whatever. So I guess it is kind of that, what are you here to tell me? What are you here
Mhm.
to show me? But I love the way that you just phrased that. I can use that.
Mhm. And that's the thing is that so often we are unaware of the rich guidance that is always present for us as we have been created, as we are, as these multifaceted beings. And so when we just allow ourselves to recognize, oh, this is what's up now, this is the emotion, and tell me more is another phrase. Tell me
Mhm.
more anger. Tell me more grief. Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that, grief is one of those that's really challenging, right? Really challenging for many people, because on the one hand, we know that grief is in direct proportion to the love. Like, right, we love someone a lot, and so when they're not available to us anymore, then we grieve that relationship. We grieve that experience of interacting. And so it's proportionate, and we know that. And even like, because of the teaching in Science of Mind, right? No emotion is bad. So grief is a natural expression, a natural part. And that question, what are you here to tell me beyond the fact that I really love this person? Like, what else are you here to tell me or to show me? Like, and it could be so many things, right?
Yes.
So I love that question. What are you here to tell me? I know you're not here to overwhelm me. I know you're not here to, be a barrier or a wall, but just really, what are you here to tell me? It's time to do what? Or there's more about me that I didn't know before that I get to explore now. Or, right? It's like
Yes.
there's so many things that could be the answer.
And so often we are resistive to the dark emotions, the shadow emotions, the emotions that don't feel warm and fuzzy. And yet they're part of who we are. And so by being in resistance, we all say what we resist persists. When we can recognize and relate, then we can release.
Yeah, it's always a journey, right? We're
It is.
going to experience emotions. So it's just like, what emotions am I experiencing today?
Yes.
What's the pattern of emotions that are really present in my life right now? So I love that. So rest my body, relax my mind, regulate my emotions,
And realign as spirit. I didn't say with. There's no separation. We're all here right now. And that's the myth of humanity, is that we're separate. And so by just simply allowing ourselves to come into this, I don't know how many of you in the audience experience this motion bringing you into divine alignment, bringing you into connection with yourself, especially when you stop here and your thumbs are on your heart center. I love it. So for me, that's really a way to align. Another way for me to align, Tracy, is when I recognize that I'm in worry, doubt, and fear, and especially fear. Oh, well, that's a call for care. That's a call to say, wait a minute, what's going on here? I know what state I am in. I'm in the state of fear. What would I like to have happen? Oh, I'd like to return to the awareness of the truth of my being. I'm not wired for fear. Yes, it's here, but it's not who I am.
Right. It's here, but it is here. It is present. I am experiencing that right now.
Absolutely.
But it does not define who I am or how I will navigate this world.
And this moment.
Yes. That is just that. It's like, people are like, Tracy, that makes sense. I'm like, yeah, that's how I talk to myself, my inner self, my human self all the time. Like, it is a practice that I can be a victim to and assume, I've had coaching clients argue with me, or try to, because I don't argue with them, but they are adamant. Well, no, it has to be that way. No, my life for the last 8 years has been horrible, and it's supposed to be horrible because I lost that job, or I got a divorce, or I, was homeless for 6 months because I didn't have the money to pay my bills. And I'm like, no, yes, that's true. Yes, it happened. Yes, it is an experience to go through. And especially when it's been, 5 years or 8 years or 10 years, it's like that does not define right now. That does not define it. It influences how you show up, but it doesn't define who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to remind myself of that, though. I think that's sometimes when coaching clients are really so sure that their life needs to be horrible, or bad things have happened or are happening or are going to happen. I'm like, oh, where am I doing that in my life?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where am I stuck? So we do these four, we consider these 4 R's, but as Rev V said, the whole point is to get into that, or to return to the wholeness that is already the center of who we are. That
Yes.
we've been the ones busy moving away from it or being distracted from it.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little about this return to wholeness.
For me right now, what it's been the awareness of the many facets of myself that are part of the whole. And so if there is a part of me that I am upset with or judging or thinking, my gosh, when are you going to shape up this part of me? It's a call for me to go into the awareness, to explore this part of myself, to find the gifts in this part of myself and welcome it back into the wholeness of who I am. Because when I can love and appreciate, love and appreciate all these parts of myself, then I walk into the world, and it may be around the house talking to myself, because I do that just like you do, Tracy. But I do that in a state of wholeness. Again, it's not in a state of separation. And that's what I know my walk on this planet is all about. And then I can see the wholeness in you.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes. Amen. Hallelujah. All of the above. Abracadabra. Like all of it. All of it. So this is really helpful. So I'm going to ask you to do 2 things. One, I'm going to ask you to put it all together and summarize it, because there may be some people who, as the numbers have changed, who didn't hear the first part. So overall, right, what is this that we're talking about? The R's of spiritual alignment, the 2 or 3 questions we can ask ourselves to touch base. And then I have a different question for you.
Okay,
so,
great.
Let's summarize.
So, and a spiritual practice for you to consider implementing is waking up first thing in the morning and noticing, by asking the question, what state am I in? And just allow yourself to notice, are you feeling something in your body? Is that foreground for you? Or perhaps is your mind off and racing? Or are you feeling something that is disturbing or exciting as an emotion to get you up and out of bed? Or how are you feeling spiritually? So you ask the question number one, what state am I in? And choose one, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And without any judgment, be curious and ask the question, what would I like to have happen now? Because the only moment we have is now. So those are the 4 R's, allowing you then to experience the 5th R by returning to wholeness. Perhaps you have a pain in your neck and it's there every morning when you wake up. This is a part of you that you may not like, but you can ask the question, who or what is my life is the pain in my neck? You see, you can hear more. You can learn more. So this spiritual practice then can move with you throughout the day, because what we know is we're dynamic beings. And as a result of that, we're in constant flow. And one part of us can certainly influence another part. We're like the weather. So
We are like, our lives are like the weather.
they are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I especially love this because, as you know, poetry prayer practice, we do like to do shows where here's a spiritual practice you actually can use
Yes.
to integrate all of the philosophy and the theory into the way you live and how you navigate it. So often I think we get so hung up on, did I learn it right? Can I quote the Fillmores? Can I quote Ernest Holmes? Do I know exactly what is written in this book or that book? And we completely forget that the real test of what we know or what we've learned is how we use it, how we embody it. So I'm going to ask you to take a breath and think for a minute. What spiritual practice is really prevalent or upfront in serving you right now in your life, in this phase or season of your life? I like to ask our guests often, what's your favorite spiritual practice right now? And it may be what you just shared with us, or it may be something else. So I am just curious before we close out today, if you have a favorite spiritual practice that is really upfront for you right now.
Yes. And it's evolved over time. It began with rest your body, relax your mind, regulate your emotions, realign a spirit, and it's deepened now. And I loved this quote from Ernest Holmes' Science of Mind, page 227. The power within you is the same that holds the planets in space. And so what I'm aware of right now is that as a divine being, it is essential for me to remember who I am, especially in these times on the planet when we can feel so powerless. So what I do in the morning now, after I have checked in to see how I am with the 4 R's, read my Science of Mind magazine, read the Science of Mind, and some other readings I do, I simply then intend that the power that I just read to you is within me, and allow that to simply come forth and be. So that when I get up and walk through my day, when I look at myself in the mirror, I can remind myself, oh, that's why you are here. You're here to feel this. You're here to be this. And sometimes it's peace, and sometimes it's loving presence, and sometimes it's beauty, whatever it is. But to bring that so that every cell in my body feels that.
I love it. And I'm not the only one who loves it. We have a comment in the chat from Lenore Billings Harris that you have both been speaking to my heart. I so appreciate the model of the 4 or 5 R's. They both work. And Elvia is saying the question for him to take away is, how do I become the conductor of my life and calling in the sax and the trumpet when needed and allowing the rhythm section to set the timing and the foundation of the symphony of life?
Beautiful.
And isn't that what we are doing with our spiritual practice? Really, we are navigating all the complexity, but we have to use all the instruments in the symphony to make our lives work.
Yes. And my teacher, Alana Rubenfeld, was a conductor at Juilliard School of Music. So our training was very much about being in that present moment, noticing all the things that were happening with our clients. And then to bring that as a spiritual practitioner, then it allowed me to notice so many different things.
Yeah. Well, I want to really thank you and tell you again how much I appreciate your saying yes, and love that we have had this time to just chat about a spiritual practice that is so practical, practical. And I know that I'll be applying it, I'll be using it. And everybody, if you want to stay connected with Georgena, please visit her website at integratedwellbeinginstitute.com. integratedwellbeinginstitute.com. Thanks so much, Georgena.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. It was a delight.
Hey, everybody, please stick around. Make sure that you mark your calendar for Tuesdays at noon Mountain Time. Noon Mountain Time. I always have to take a breath and make sure I say the right time zone. And we've got some interesting shows coming up in the next few weeks. Or, as I said earlier, you can always go to the archives and check out the playlist and look for a past show that is related to what's up for you or what you would like to know more about. That relates to poetry, prayer, and practice. My name is Tracy Brown, and I hope to see you again next week or real soon. Have a fabulous week.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next week. Or watch on demand at www.ntmedia.org or youtube.com/New Thought Media Network. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring. Learn more at www.ntmedia.org.